G'day everybody, it's Dave from Wing Chun Mind Force. This is not a bus talk. I don't drive the bus anymore, but I've driven here in the car and I'm in a bit of a beautiful country place, really unusual tree. I love the strange knobs that are growing out of the ground there. Got the old Aussie birds warbling in the background, the magpies. Whiskers are getting pretty long and snowy. Just growing it long for the winter, just for the hell of it. Got my favourite t-shirt on with Bruce Lee and aliens. My good mate Des Melican made this for me and sent it to me out of the blue, which was a thrill. And that's one of the things I love about Wing Chun, is that it really is a family. And I don't know if you've noticed, but years ago there was a lot of kerfuffles in the Wing Chun forums, but I just don't notice it anymore. I don't know whether people have all got over it or what, but everyone's a lot happier. And my Facebook followers is up to 3,000, which sort of blew me out, because last time I looked it was about 1,700, so a whole lot of people have just discovered me out of the blue. And I've been really focused on my Viking Superpowers channel, which is all about the Viking Age and way back into the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, and all sorts of strange goings on that I've discovered, because you might or might not know, I've been studying the Icelandic language for a long, long time. I've been to Iceland, Scandinavia, I've read the sagas, still reading the sagas in Old Norse now, or Old Icelandic. And that's a passion of mine. That's why Des put the alien on here, because I'm sort of an ancient alien guy, but talking about the Viking Age. And you might think, what's that got to do with Wing Chun? Well, everything's Wing Chun to me. I'm a fanatic. But I see Wing Chun in everything, and the old stories of the Viking warriors. It's amazing how much we don't actually know, but one thing I know is that my hero, this guy called Gunnar from Hlithrendi, it's a place in Iceland, it means the end of the slope. He was just the most incredible warrior, and he was a real guy, and he fought with two hands at once. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? His favourite weapon was this long, it was like a spear, but it had a sword on the end, and it's pretty much the same length as our pole. So, yeah, we don't know how they achieved what they achieved, but this guy could cut somebody in half with one swipe. So he's on the samurai level of internal, external art form. So Wing Chun just continues to interest me, because it's not only this fantastic compilation of forms which gives you really, really practical ways to attack somebody, defend yourself at the same time, turn them away, using your body weight, using your center, using your mass to overwhelm people with not just arm strength, but the whole bodies and everything you do. That's an incredible thing. And it's incredibly effective. And people who don't know Wing Chun always say, oh yeah, it's a weak art, the punches have got no power, you need 100 punches to knock somebody down. I feel like crying when I hear that stuff. I think, you have got no idea what Wing Chun is. You have got absolutely no idea. But I think we've all moved past listening to that sort of rubbish too, the old bullshito thing. It's like, whatever, man. You have your opinion. If people come and test me out, I can always show them things that make them reconsider. But I guess today I wanted to just say I'm still committed to this channel. I had something happen to me a few months ago which changed a lot for me, and basically we had these very annoying, very noisy neighbours, and we put up with them for several years. Like, we really gave them so much slack. And eventually I reported them to their real estate agency, and yeah, I think some of their mates might have been involved. I'm not saying that is actually what happened, but it was really at the same time. So I was really on edge, expecting to get attacked, because I felt these people were blaming me for them getting in trouble, even though the whole neighbourhood was complaining about them. And then coincidentally, one early morning, there was a great shrieking of tyres outside of our place at about 3:30, and then an hour later, I'm back asleep, and kapow, somebody races up my driveway, up the driveway, it's not a flat driveway, full speed, in reverse, slam into the garage door, stove it right in. My big Volvo was in there, and so that made it harder for them to get in. So they didn't actually get into the house. But then they took off, and when the police came, they told me that they were pretty sure who did it, and it was this wanted criminal who they'd captured a number of times, and he'd managed to get away. And I later found out he wasn't that dangerous, and sadly he got killed by some local heavies. He sort of kept pushing, you know what they say, FAFO, was it? F-A-F-O? Well, he certainly did that, and the poor cow passed away. But the police said that was him, and I thought he was a real dangerous guy. Like, he looked like a dangerous guy. Had this ultra mullet, you know, sort of really prickly and long hair at the back and tats. And not that there's anything wrong with tats, but you know, he just looked like a real prison unit. And so I got, you know, a wife and 3 kids, and I was on high alert then. I thought, you know, what if these rat bags come back and come into my house? What are they likely to do if they're up for slamming into my garage and stoving it in? They don't even know me. You know, I thought, is a home invasion coming next? So after so many years of Wing Chun, virtually 30 years training, suddenly it was real. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to fight. And I was looking around for weapons, as everyone does, you know, looking at baseball bats, and I got a couple of Japanese wooden swords and things. And then I thought, Dave, you're a Wing Chun guy, you know, you're pretty much a master. Why don't you use your Wing Chun swords? And I started training with them, and I just had this wonderful time training, and I realised just how bloody effective they are. And mine aren't sharp, they're just the practice training blunt ones, but man, those things are impressive. And the people who taught me the knives said to me, you know, they're like an extension of your sao, the elbow to the fingertips. And I've known that for a long time, but as I started practicing with this knowledge that I might seriously have to use them, it changed everything. The complexion of my training changed, and I started to see what was in that form, all the goodies from the rest of the forms, but these steel arms. And I was taught many years ago that they're supposed to be blunt, right? It was just this idea amongst most of the seniors that I knew that they're supposed to be blunt. You just break bones and clobber people with them. Never really seemed to make sense. I thought, well, why not just have iron bars if that's what you're going to do? And then Sibuk Frederick Mo, who I consider the highest level in our Wing Chun, you know, who trained with Sigung Chushong Tin since 1955, and who's a friend of mine. He's a lovely man, and Jesus, he's good. People underestimate him because he's just a skinny old Chinese guy, but man, he's the real deal. And I said to him, are our swords supposed to be blunt? He laughed at me and he said, no, of course they're not. He says, the blunt ones are for practice. They're heavy and, you know, they're for practice so you don't cut your biceps. But the real ones are supposed to be razor sharp, and you keep them under your bed for when the robbers came. So I thought, so I'm not getting sharp ones. So I might eventually. It's very dangerous. Have a really sharp thing like that, swinging it around close to your arms. You want to be good. So more training. If I feel I'm ready, I might eventually get some sharp ones. But the point of all this is that this art is a real fighting art. No matter what all the idiots say, it's a really devastating fighting art, and I've done a lot of fighting in my life, and I know what fighting's like, and I've always done well with just boxing, kickboxing, some basic jiu-jitsu that I was taught by my father, but Wing Chun, man, it is a powerhouse fighting art. It's just people don't understand how to use it properly, how to use their body and their mind. So I'll leave it at that, but I'd like to ask you to tell me what you'd really like to hear from me. I've got so much to give. I mean, I've been seeing some of the senior people in the art running seminars overseas in Europe and Hong Kong and different places, which is so cool that people are hungry for it. I wish I could get it, people, because I have got a lot I want to pass on, but I pass it on freely here. And if anyone ever wants me to come along to their school or their country or whatever, I'm there. I'm very confident, and I've got so much cool stuff to show. But let me know what you'd like me to make videos about, what you'd like me to talk about. And there's one last thing. You probably don't know this about me, but I've lived a long life, and I'm in my late 60s now. But when I was in my 20s, I was a policeman for 4 years. And after that, I was a bouncer for a number of years. I grew up fighting, just had to. It was just rough where I grew up. Kids were always attacking. I had to learn to fight. I was in the military cadets, Royal Australian Air Force Air Training Corps, we called it, but it was in the Vietnam time, so they trained us with a much more military seriousness than they do now. It was a lot tougher. Did a lot of work with rifles, especially the old 303 and bushwork. So I've got a whole lot of stuff I know about how to survive in gunfights, how to survive in violence, how to avoid getting jumped by bad guys, when you're walking the streets at night. Lots of tricks of the trade that I've never really passed on. And if you'd be interested in that, I wouldn't mind making a few videos just to pass on some of the cool stuff I learned, some of the best stuff I learned, believe it or not. Even though we had some training in the police, it was, at least in the 80s in Queensland, it wasn't the greatest training. They got us super fit, but stuffed their heads full of law. But I learned a hell of a lot from other police, and especially this one mate of mine, Barry, who was ex-infantry sergeant. Australian infantry is pretty much special forces in any other country, and this guy taught me some really cool stuff. And when I was in the Air Force cadets, a guy just come back from Vietnam. He was in the infantry in Vietnam, humping the boonies, hunting Charlie, and he taught me some stuff too. So if you're interested, let me know. I'd like to share some of that. And it's not technically Wing Chun, but it's a cliche, but I think our world is becoming a bit more dangerous socially. In the West, we seem to be leaderless, and people are dividing into camps and getting angrier and angrier, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And I think it's really useful, even once something from an old fella like me might save your life, because stuff from my old man, he taught me a hell of a lot too. Some of the stuff he taught me contributed to at least keeping me safe in gun situations and knife situations and that sort of stuff. So let me know in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your week, and look forward to more talks like this. See you later.